Hey everybody, let's get ready for some fall decor. Oh, I love it. All right, so I have pulled out a whole bunch of fun stuff. So first what we're doing is we are starting with the wood shop project by Adorn It. These are pumpkin wood sitters. They're two separate pumpkins. And in the picture, they're having to do a lot of paper. So I'm going to do a little bit of paper, but I'm also going to do some painting, some stenciling, just to give it to my own twist, because why not? First step I'm going to do is I'm going to take some white school glue. This is as simple as it gets. I'm going to coat this entire area down here with my white school glue. So hard so far, right? The school glue is from Super-Tite. It is fantastic. I am taking a palette. This is a silicone palette brush, and I'm doing it because I want to get all these little brush lines, and I'm probably going to have to add some more. So this glue has got a lot less chemicals and things in there, which means it is odor-free. It is safe for kids. It doesn't have anything in there that's going to cause cancer. It is fantastic. So there's coupon links before. There's also going to be links to where you can get this fun pumpkin kit. And as a heads up, there is more than just pumpkin kits. There is a ton of different kinds of kits. So if you guys can guess it, I am doing this pretty much like I would do for decoupage, but I'm using school glue. Because you know what? That's what's fun and easy. It's multi-use. Why get a whole bunch of different kinds of glues when you can have one that does all of it? It's fantastic stuff. All right, I have way too much on here, but what we're going to end up doing, as you can see, I have got a lot on here, is we're going to take our paper and we're just going to smash it down. Look how easy that is. So far, so simple, right? There we go. Now, I'm going for a very distressed looking pumpkin. I'm not going for a perfect. So that's why I didn't paint my edges first, because you're going to be seeing this. But I wanted to add some kind of fun and funky to the edge. I want it to be a little distressed because that's what we're doing with our top pumpkin here. So now that that is on there, flip it upside down. Make sure it is really on there, like really pushed down. It's okay if some of the glue pulls off the side. I am not worried about it. And you want to let that dry. So set this off to the side, let it do its thing, and clean off my palette knife. And we're going to get started on the other pumpkin. Next thing we're going to do is we are going to paint our little pumpkin. Now, I need to think about how I arrange the big pumpkin. And I want the stem to go the other direction. So this is the way, because I covered this side of the other pumpkin with the stem going that way, the other direction. So this is the one we're doing, but I don't want to do like the super duper uber orange. Originally they had the striped paper, but I just really love the orange on the orange vibe, but we're going to add some metallic to it. So I am taking a little bit of this modeling paste. This is an antique cold modeling paste from Crafters Workshop. And I know it's a modeling paste, not a paint, but it's just so pretty. I love it. And it's not going to take a lot to do this one. The other thing is that we are going to, and I'm just going to lightly paint this because I want to have this color going around here. So I want to paint this entire edge here, as you can see, with this copper color. All right, so now that I've painted the entire edge going all around, I've got a little bit of that same modeling paste, and I'm going to put a hint of the orange in there. I'm just going to see how this looks. It's kind of like a tester. Kind of going for like a pretty orange, something that's got an orangey vibe to it, but metallic-y looking. There, I love that. Ooh, that's pretty. So there's nothing to say that you can't use your modeling pastes in a little bit of a different fashion. And I am really, truly going for a grungy vibe in this. So I am going to make sure that all the different directions of the paint, usually whenever I'm painting something, I want it to look nice and neat and perfect. So I'll make sure that all my paint lines go the same direction. This, I'm going to have it go really, truly every single possible direction it can go here. I am not, it's going to look like a patchwork front. Really come in, get those lines. First, I also have to kind of coat the front. So make sure I come in and coat the front. And I did a pretty light coat on the edge. It's getting pretty dry already. I don't have a lot of paint that I mixed. I'm kind of end up using it all up. But really come in, give it texture, use that paintbrush to your benefit by giving it texture. Nothing says that you have to make it look clean. Get in there, smush it around, give your pumpkin some fun. So just to kind of show you guys the texture I'm talking about. Yeah, you can really see that texture now. I really got my brush and I just kind of went all over. You guys saw that, and that gives that beautiful texture. So set that off to the side to dry. You could also get your heat gun out or a drying tool out and get it to bubble and blister. It's not the effect I want to go for. I want to see those paintbrush textures on this one. In this kit, you also get 2 leaves and a heart. We're going to do them in this beautiful copper penny modeling paste. I'm really kind of taking my hues from just doing all these beautiful earth tones and oranges. So again, I'm using this as paint, just coming in, painting it on, getting it nice and thick. It's already got kind of a really cool edge, so I don't want to cover that up. So I'm really going to go right to the edge, and I'm going to paint all 3 of these objects with this modeling paste. I'm going to do it really fast because I'm going to end up stenciling on the small pumpkin, which is where this little heart's going to go. And because I didn't use the antique gold 100%, I just used it as kind of a background, I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint this. Even though it does have a little bit of that copper penny still on it, it's going to be a little bit of a blend just to give it a different color. It's all fitting in the same kind of realm. Now, the other thing I'm doing, and I kind of sped through that so you guys didn't see that part, is I went through and I coated all of these little pieces in the modeling paste. It goes on kind of like toothpaste, so it's very thick. It's a very, very thick, because it's modeling paste. It's not paint per se. So once I got it on there, there's really no good way to make this look perfect and clean, and I don't want it to have that effect for this particular project. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my brush, kind of like the tip here, and I'm making little crosses all over once I get the paint on, giving it that kind of all these little fine lines with the brush strokes, just making sure that everything is kind of model-y looking. So it doesn't have, and the same thing for this one and for this one. So there is no true direction that the brush strokes are going. They're going in all directions, which gives this beautiful kind of textured vibe. So you can just see a hint of that texture. So as the light hits it, you're going to see some light tones and dark tones, and these will dry beautifully. So that's the next step, is kind of letting everything sit and dry for a while. All right, so I let this dry off to the side, and look, it is dry and stuck on there. It is not coming off. It is so stinking easy. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to come in with some scissors and just do a rough cut. Flip over to my front and then just snip. Boop, just like that. You got to add the sound effects, the boop, just like that too. All right, now there's a lot of different ways that you can do this next part. You could, take an X-Acto knife and cut exactly where you want to, but I have found the easiest thing to do is to take sandpaper. Now here's a couple of different variations of little sand kind of foam sections. This one's made for paper crafts. This one, it's called, what is this called? Snow block. But I mean, there's so many different versions. This one comes from Home Depot. I'll have links down below where you guys can find some of these things. And you just sand. So you just rub it along the edge. And as you can see, look, it's starting to pull away. And then you just kind of tear off that piece. As I get further, and you're giving this really cool kind of edge to it as well. So you just kind of go through and keep on sanding. It works the same for the big blocks as well. You get a cool kind of a rustic edge. I love that feeling. And then it also cuts it off exactly where you want to. If you haven't sanded enough, you just kind of keep on pulling that paper. And then eventually you can just kind of pull it back. If it's still a little rough, go a little more. You've glued it down all the way to that edge, so it's not going to come off. Don't worry about that. That's why we let it sit for a while, to the point where I was like shaking it with the paper. And look at that nice clean edge. It is one of the easiest ways to get in and do clean edges when you're adding paper to any kind of big object, especially when you have a really big sturdy piece, instead of trying to come in with an X-Acto knife. And you get this beautiful little edge action happening here. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to continue sanding, going all the way around. And I am going to do the best I can about doing a clean cut. It's going to get covered up by some rope, so it's not going to match perfectly, and that's okay because we're going to paint the top. All right, so I've gone through and done a little bit of cutting here, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this and I just folded it, rubbed it back and forth a little bit with my finger, and I'm just ripping off that edge to give it a little bit of that same look. And look how cool that looks all the way around the edge. So pretty. All right, next step is we're going to come in and paint. So here I have the copper penny modeling paste. I just think this is so stinking pretty. And we're going to come in and we're going to paint the edges to our pumpkin. So I know I don't use this as, you can use this for all kinds of stuff. I'm technically using it as paint. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to paint the top of my pumpkin here, right here. Get in, kind of, it's okay if I cover up a little bit right there, not a big deal. Get in there. And then I'm also going to come in and do the edges of the entire pumpkin. So I'm going to come in and do the edges along here. I'm not worried about if I get the back. Nobody's going to see the back of this thing. All right, so I've gone through and painted. I added some extra here. I'm kind of taking the brush now that it's a little bit dry and just kind of rubbing it, giving it some more texture, really adding into the grunginess of this entire pumpkin. I'm just going to go and rest this on a place to dry out of the way. And I have here a small stencil from Crafters Workshop, and the last pumpkin was all dots, right? Well, this one we are going to make all squares. This time we're going to come in and we are going to do the palette knife with this. Now, here's what we're going to have to do, because this obviously is not big enough to go on both sections. We're going to let this completely dry, and once this is dry, we're going to do the second half. We're going to flip it over, line up our squares, and do the second half. So it's going to be a two-parter, so you're just going to have to be a little patient. It doesn't get all done at one time. And come in and apply our stenciling to this. You're still going to see that texture we added previously when we went in and we added all that beautiful texture to our pumpkin. And don't worry about getting up here at the top of the stem, because we are going to be painting our stem this color as well, kind of matching the two tones that we have for both pumpkins. So come in, make sure you get it all good. If you don't want to have it to be super matchy-matchy, you could go with a completely different color for this. You can also leave some gaps, because this is a very rustic looking pumpkin. Now, Crafters Workshop does make a bigger stencil that would fit over this, but the squares I feel will just be too big for this particular pumpkin. So now lift it up and look at that cool texture that's on there. I love it. I'm just cleaning up some of the edges here. I love that. And I love, we're going to actually get a little bit, we're going to overlap this a tiny bit. So we're going to get that ridge right down the center here from here. So we're going to line this up so that we get two lines happening, but not yet. First stage I'm going to be doing is I need to go and wash this. This needs to dry. And I'm going to come back and I'm going to paint up my stem. So just so you guys can see what I'm doing, I'm going to come in, and this is just painting very quickly to kind of let everything dry at the same time. I'm holding my stencil in one hand, which is why I'm not holding this, because I don't want to lay my stencil down and have it get all gross. So just coming in and painting up that top stem. And again, this is one we're going to put a little bit of something around the neck of this pumpkin. So it's okay that it is not perfectly in line. And look at that, so cute. So I just wanted to come in real fast, and I laid my leaves on top of my pumpkins, and there's too much kind of this copper going on. So I'm pulling out a champagne gold, which is really light color gold. It still fits within all of the color scheme of what's happening. And I am going to repaint. Nothing says I can't change my mind. I'm going to repaint these with this gold color just to bring in a different pop of color. It's going to be a little bit, a hint of a darkness underneath, and that's absolutely fine. So let these dry, and now everything can have the same drying time and not coming back. So it's always good, even if you kind of relook at your design and go, ooh, that's not going to look right, or it's just too matchy-matchy, change it. Nothing says you can't add a little coat of paint on top of something and change it up however you wish. And add the texture in there. Stipple and give it that beautiful texture, and just look at that. And because we actually have, it's kind of acting cool, because we have got that texture underneath, it's really acting quite fun about, look at that. That is so awesome. I think I need to add a little bit more paint to this. It's looking a little too orangey, but it really has kind of a cool texture. If texture's not your thing, then make it, just paint it on solid, but I'm liking the texture vibe. All right, so this is fully dried, and just to show you how beautiful this is, look how cool, right? So I want to see, because I have this layer going on, I'm going to add that layer just right there. So I'm going to line it up so that way you can see a little bit of both. I want to make sure that it's lined up just right. You know, so maybe it doesn't look so matchy-matchy. I'm going to shove it over a little bit so it doesn't look too identical. I think that's the best way to describe it. So I'm going to add this layer right here. Make sure these are in line. There we go. And then go ahead and add the paste. Let this dry. So I'm only going to add the paste from here on over. I'm going to let this dry, and then we will start assembling the final product. All right, so everything is dried. I've stenciled on the other side. It's all beautiful. This is completely dried. All of these little elements are dried. Now it's just a matter of gluing it all together. And I went ahead and pulled back out the design, the original design, because I'm not going to deviate from that. I really am going to kind of do my own thing. I think I'm going to make one exception because I got a little smudge. Our friend, our neighbor friend came over and he was very curious about what was going on. And he's 6 and he was, oh, what's that? And he stuck his finger in there. And he goes, it's okay. It can wash off. I'm like, yes, honey. And I was just inside going, no. Anyway, so I think my heart is going to go right there just to cover up the little oopsie that happened. So in the kit, we were given this twine, but I have raffia. And for some reason, I just see Thanksgiving and autumn and raffia works. So I'm going to pull it out. So I've got my raffia here. I'm going to take out a couple of strands of this. Use a couple strands for both sections. I already put a little dab of glue on there because I was trying to get the twine to work. And then I remembered I have raffia. So I'm going to use that. All right, so I've got all this beautiful raffia and it's going to give me tons and tons of beautiful texture. Come in the back here. Basically, we're just going to tie a kind of a cool bow. So come in, tie the bow. Because I already have the glue down, I got to be careful not to get my strands kind of locked up in there. But get in there, and that way it's going to hold it down. The glue we're using today is the Super Tight 360 Multi-Crab glue. It's great because it has low odor to no odor. Actually, this thing I don't think has any odor, which is great. I have another little dab of glue here. It's kid safe. It is wonderful stuff. Super low chemicals, so it's not going to cause anything funky like cancer or whatnot. So you know you are good, and it is an amazing glue. There's a coupon code down below. That way you guys can get yourself some. All right, now we're going to tie an official bow. I did a knot first because I didn't want it coming undone. And then tie it tight, just like that. And I love the rusticness of it. I think this little guy is just a little too long here. But just kind of the messier, the better when it comes to fall in a lot of ways. It's kind of coming off on a little bit of an angle here, which is kind of cool. All right. I don't really go for super neat and tidy when I do stuff like this. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to add my little bit of glue right here. I did a double knot on that one. I'm not going to do that for the back one. All right, so I'm going to use the same glue to glue both of these down. And I'm just going to apply a generous amount of my Multi-Grab 360 to the back of this. This is going to be an indoor thing. And this does have a little bit of a waterproof, but I would grade this to be more of an indoor glue than an outdoor glue. But it has some amazing hold. And I do not want to cover up my raffia there. There we go. Let's get my little pieces out of the way. And the thing, when you line these up, make sure you line the two bottom pieces directly on top of each other because you don't want them to slip and slide. Now, this glue takes a little bit of time to dry, but I want to stand it up and make sure that everything looks pretty cool. And I am loving that. It's just such a cool effect. Now I'm going to take my larger leaf and I'm going to nestle it just right in here, just like that. Add my glue to my wood piece. Just come in and kind of nestle it right in there. Looks like it's part of what's going on. Take my smaller leaf, and because I said I'm going to redo my heart first because I'm putting my heart to kind of cover up that little smudgy factor. So it's going to go there. Actually, I'm going to line it up. There's kind of a thicker line where I was redoing the stencil and I didn't get it lined up just perfectly. So I'm going to put my heart kind of on that fatter line and then come in with my smaller leaf. And I know on the picture they put the leaves on the opposite sides, which I like, but they also have the heart down here and I don't have that ability because if I put my little leaf here, it's gonna impede with the heart, but I'm using the heart to cover up my boo-boo. So there we go. And that's it. Super, super simple. I completely diverted in terms of like kind of the color schemes and a few other things. Like I added the raffia versus the twine. I gave the twine would look super cute too. I didn't do all of the fun colors. I only did one paper versus two papers, you know, so I just altered it a little bit, but that's the kind of the fun part of it is playing with it. Links and supplies for all the items are going to be down below, so don't forget to check those out. Please subscribe. I would absolutely love that. And don't forget that bell button, which means that you would love to get notifications of new videos that I push out, and I do it a lot. So thanks so much. See you guys again soon. Have a great autumn season. Bye-bye.